Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Nicole Bramblett, and I am the Client Relationship Manager for SFLHIMSS, which is the leading COVID exposure management and medical scribe services in Florida, and also the co-program chair for the South Florida HIMSS. Just a few housekeeping items. Please keep in mind to turn on your cameras, and please mute yourself. We will be running a live Q&A at the end of the webinar, but feel free to use the chat box option to write anything along the way that comes to mind. Please also note that the webinar will be available on our YouTube channel as well afterward. Now I would like to introduce everyone to Kendall Brown. Kendall has over 20 years experience in the healthcare IT sector and is the National Accounts Director at Genius Med. She's achieved the National HIMSS Chapter Advocate of the Year last year and is now South Florida HIMSS President-elect. Kendall?
Thank you, Nicole. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our South Florida HIMSS webinar. The new norm is a virtual world. We are, as a chapter, doing more and more webinars, and we invite you to join the next one, which is on September 24th at 11:30. We'll have several doctors participating on that call, and you'll see a save the date announcement coming out. But the title of the presentation for that will be the role of social determinants of health in promoting health equality. So very important topic. Please put that on your calendar. If you are a member of South Florida HIMSS, you will have received our newsletter that went out yesterday. And if you're not a member, you should become a member. Or if you're interested in getting more involved in South Florida HIMSS, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, Nicole, and Grant, who are on the board and are a part of the call today. Again, thank you, panelists, for being involved in the webinar today. We're glad to have everyone, and I hope everyone is doing well and safe and given the circumstances with COVID. Today's topic is very important, that we all take care of our mental health, especially during stressful times. So thank you for participating and joining, and I hope you learned something today. I'll turn it back to Nicole or Jody. Jody?
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Go ahead, Jody.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining.
So just a brief introduction of Jody. She is a registered dietitian with over 20 years experience. She received her bachelor's in nutrition and her master's in nutrition and health promotion from Simon's University in Boston. She then completed her dietetic internship at Tulane University, and also is certified in diabetes care and education specialist, and a certified specialist in pediatric nutrition, and also completed the Harvard Medical School Executive Education program in obesity care. And she's currently working at Novo Nordisk as a obesity educator. Jody?
Thank you for that great introduction. So we are talking about mental health today, but we know that obesity and depression go hand in hand. So it is a topic, excuse me, that does definitely coincide together. So during this time period, if you've gained weight during this pandemic, you're definitely not alone. So I definitely have gained the quarantine 15 as a registered dietitian. So how many of you have gained the quarantine 15 as well? I'm sure lots of us have, or 5, 10, or maybe even more than 15. So it's most likely due to our disruption in daily habits and routines. So for some of us, though, we do want to say some of us have been consuming enough food, but also during this quarantine, we do have to realize that a lot of us have not had access to adequate food. So some of us might have lost weight as well. So we have had a change in movement with, being quarantined and not being able to move, which is, one of our topics today, obviously, and then consuming more calories. So maybe consuming more calories out of stress or just out of, curiosity with food and learning new recipes, baking, cooking new things, which I definitely have done as well. And so why does weight gain matter? So a few pounds here and there, people who do not live with obesity, their bodies are able to get it off easily and quickly and keep it off. But if you have the chronic disease of obesity, once you start gaining more weight, your body gets used to that weight and it just keeps on going higher and higher and higher. So in terms of what I do with Novo Nordisk, I work as an obesity educator, and my role is to go out to employers, employees, health systems, and have people really understand the chronic disease of obesity. So what causes obesity, what we use for treatment, what kinds of medications we use. So how many of us actually knew that obesity is a chronic disease? Are we able to raise our hand here? No? Do we have that function? Okay, so most of us are actually not aware, for the most part, from what I encounter on a daily basis, that obesity is a chronic disease. So let's define what a chronic disease is. So chronic diseases are defined broadly as conditions that last 1 year or more and require ongoing medical attention or limit activities of daily living or both. So in terms of obesity, there isn't a magic pill. There isn't a way that we can wish it away. It definitely comes back typically. Only 10% of people who actually attempt weight loss are able to keep it off. So why is it so relevant during this time period? So obesity is the #2 risk factor for severity of illness with COVID-19. So in one study, 41.7% of the 5,700 patients hospitalized with COVID-19 had a BMI greater than 30. In addition, 33.8% of those patients had diabetes, which is one of the most common comorbidities of obesity. Currently, to date, there are 239 comorbidities with obesity. So what is obesity? So we may think obesity is synonymous with, my 600-pound life or something to that effect, but it's really not. We use certain screening tools in the office to screen out people with obesity, so a body mass index of 30 or above, or a waist circumference for women 35 and above, or 40 and above for men. But really, obesity and overweight are defined as abnormal or excessive fat accumulation that may impair health. So we're really interested in the health aspect. I'm not from here, I'm from up north. So up north we focus more on health, and down here in South Florida, we definitely focus on aesthetics more than health. So we really want to focus on that health aspect, in that obesity is impairing health, and focus on how much weight we can actually lose to make a difference to impact our health, not getting to that ideal body weight. And I'm so happy that we are talking about stress today, because there's so much blame, shame, and bias with obesity. So we keep on blaming ourselves that, we have this disease and that it's our fault. Well, really, it's not a lifestyle choice. It is a chronic disease with a pathophysiology that defines it. So after your doctor does your body mass index and, your waist circumference, they will determine if you do have excessive fat accumulation, especially around the middle is where it's most dangerous. So there are very few people who actually have high BMIs who are actually not obese, but there definitely are people like that. So there are many different causes of obesity, which are environmental, genetics, biology, and the treatment of eat less, exercise more is definitely not the end-all be-all. So nutrition and exercise are definitely part of obesity treatment, but so is behavioral therapy and also medication. So we used to think of medications as being unsafe or, used in a short-term fashion. But now, just so you know, there are many medications approved for chronic long-term use that are safe to use and are part of normal chronic weight management treatment. And in addition, in terms of coverage for medication, there are many health systems that are on the line right now that you do have medication coverage through your job. So, Baptist, Memorial, Broward, many of the larger health systems here do have coverage. So what I would encourage you to do is, if you do want to speak to your provider regarding this subject further, check with your insurance company to see what kind of coverage you have for anti-obesity medication, and then bring that information to your provider so you are armed with an arsenal of medication so they can help you appropriately. I am also available to come to your health system to speak about this in much greater length so it makes complete sense and you understand the full picture of how chronic weight management is handled these days. So if you would like my contact information, we can definitely provide that to you. So thinking of weight management as a journey, and a journey throughout our whole lives and not just a moment in time, definitely can help you. Or maybe you're not the person who needs this information, but some of your loved ones are the ones who need this information. So thank you for your time and attention to this important subject matter. And now I would like to introduce Grace Jimenez. So she's a manager with Community Health, and she's a licensed marriage and family therapist and manages community health at Baptist Health South Florida. She obtained her master's in marriage and family therapy from the University of Miami and has provided comprehensive behavioral health treatment for individuals and families with mental health issues in private practice, community mental health settings, and hospital sites. She's worked as an employee assistance professional with Baptist Health South Florida since 2004. She is currently the manager overseeing the clinical team and offers presentations on mental health and well-being to the community. Throughout her career, she has presented at professional conferences, has been featured on South Florida's PBS Health Channel, and for the community. So, Grace?
Thank you, Jody.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone, for being here. As I'm listening to Jody talk and I'm listening to the different effects of stress on our health and our physique, and I'm thinking about my presentation. So I'm just going to jump right in and talk a little bit about change and embracing change. And during this time, during COVID, there's so much that's happening. There's this pandemic, there's so many unknowns, and our lives have been completely disrupted. And so when we're doing with that kind of big change, it causes a lot of disruptions in our daily lives. It causes a lot of disruptions in our internal selves. And so we start coping, if you will, in sometimes not the best ways. Okay? So what I want to point out is what's on our minds. And so as each and every one of us and everybody out there is not just thinking about COVID-19. I'm sure everybody has experienced that moment when you either are on social media or watching the news, or you turn on the radio and you're like, they're talking about COVID again. And so that's something that's happening all the time. And because it's happening all the time, it tends to affect our moods. It tends to affect the way that we deal with not just with COVID, but with everything else. It's affecting our finances. It's affecting our work. It's affecting our health, our schooling, our grocery shopping, our looking for, picking the right foods, choosing the right foods, and it affects our relationship with our families. And so when you're out there and when you're at work and when you're with other people, you have to remember that everybody has all of these different things on their minds, and this is affecting everyone. So the other thing that you have to keep in mind is that we've all been asked to take on new roles. We've all been asked to do new things. So parents that are out there that have kids at home right now, they're being asked to be teachers and principals and IT experts, but we've all been asked to do that. So whether you're a parent or not, these are all the things that you have been doing over the last 6 months because you haven't been able to go to the vet as frequently as maybe as you wanted to, or the doctors, or out to eat, or even to talk with others. And so these are all the different things that are happening. And when we look at, the way that we interact with our family members, if you have kids at home, well, they can't see their grandparents right now. So you're acting as grandparents as well. You're filling that role for your family, for yourselves, for your work. It's happening all over the place. So these are some of the things that everybody's experiencing, and that's really key. And what I want to hone down is that we're all experiencing this at different levels, right? Okay. So one of the aspects is, as we start getting ready to go back in person to some of the sites, whether you're going home or you're going back to school, or you're doing a hybrid where you're doing some stuff online and some stuff in person, or maybe right now you're just online, you're just virtual. These are some of the things that everybody's worried about. When you go out and about, you're in an outing, you're going to the grocery store or someplace else, you're wondering, hey, did that person just sneeze? Did that person just cough? Is that corona? Should I be worried about it? And then if you're in an office space, some of the things that the employees that I've worked with have shared with me is the worry that if somebody's not wearing their mask, if they take off their mask for a minute, if they're in a closed space and they're sharing space with somebody else, because sometimes that happens in the elevator if you're going someplace. So these are the things that are constantly on our minds, and it makes us hyper vigilant. And when you're hyper vigilant for these things, the anxiety starts to build. And with that anxiety comes a bunch of other symptoms and signs and symptoms of that could lead to some more serious mental health issues, as well as some physical issues that could arise. So I wanted to share a little bit about what Baptist has done. And so early on in this pandemic, what happened is we realized that we needed to take care of our staff, we needed to take care of our leaders, we needed to take care of our community. And so we created a recovery book, a playbook that helps us internally decide, what we needed, what are the expectations, so we can share that with our employees. And what we also did is we created one that was for our partners in the community. So it's something that if you and your organization needs a little assistance, a little guidance of how to set some of those rules, what kind of things can you do? What are some of the resources out there? It is available to you, and I did add the link here, so anybody can download that. And then we also did some other things internally. So in the playbook, there is this section where it talks about employee support. And what we also did is we added an employee support page, if you will, on our internal intranet website, right? So we also started doing things like support groups for the staff. We started we have chaplains at our hospitals, and so we started asking our chaplains to assist. We listed things on this site, and we created a big long running list of all the resources that are available to them. We talked about the spiritual religious, we talked about mental health, we talked about financial resources, because and self-care, discounts. You can see all the different things that we talked about, and we're constantly communicating that. We held a lot of different meetings for our staff. We held meetings for leaders and things that they needed to look and realize, not just on the day-to-day structure and the processes that we were implementing, but on the other aspects, how to support the staff, how to support our teams. Because as Baptists, we're a very large community, or a very large entity and organization. We have clinical teams, we have the doctors, the nurses, the CTs, the radiologists, but we also have a lot of support staff. We have a lot of administrative assistants, a lot of people that are not in direct contact with patients, and we needed to be able to support them as well. And so one of the other things that we did for our community is we did virtual weekly programs. So we created, through our community health program, we started these Zoom exercise classes and programs on mental health, on nutrition, on how to manage the pandemic. We had doctors on there from different specialties, and we still have this weekly. It is available to all of you. It's events@baptisthealth.com is the email that you can email, but it's also available on our intranet. And I have that listed later as well. And so these are some of the things, you have to keep in mind when you're going back. What does it look like when you're back in the office? And asking questions before you go back in, whether it's in the office or if you're going back to school, making sure that the school and the office is taking precautions, that you have everything that you need, the social distancing, as well as everybody's wearing masks. And there's a lot of this that changes daily or weekly at this point, not so much daily, but making sure that you're up to date, and that if you happen to be a leader, that you're also sharing this with those people that you're leading. And so one of the big things that I want everybody to remember on a mental health note, right, is that change is not something we like. Humans like to know what's happening, what's going to happen next, who are we going to talk to next, where do I go, what's going on. We don't like the unknown as much as we like the freedom of being able to choose what we do, but we would like to know what's out there. And so change is difficult. So like a baby giraffe, things can feel wobbly and we could feel like we don't have a balance, we don't have a handle on things. But ultimately, change is necessary because it's what pushes us to the next level. It's what helps us get to the next place. And so for a lot of businesses and a lot of organizations, pushing through this pandemic and stepping outside of our comfort zone has actually opened up new possibilities, like presenting virtually. There's a lot of people on here that in order for all of us to have been able to reach you, this would have been a totally different setup and it would have been a lot bigger production and we would maybe not have been able to reach all of you. So there's some benefits and some things that have come out of this pandemic that are good and positive. And so keeping your mind on those things kind of helps balance out the anxieties. Okay. And so everybody's talking about this adapting to the new normal. And every time I hear that, I get a little anxious. So I don't like calling it the new normal. I like telling everybody to think about the new right now. So why I call it the right now is because there's an end to this. There is a time where we're not all going to be wearing masks, where we're not going to need to social distance, where we're going to be able to hug. And in the meantime, we need to understand that there are stress that's happening. We need to recognize that there is a constant change that's happening. Everywhere you go, things are different. So one day you might go someplace and there's lots of restrictions and the next day there isn't. And then the day after that, there might be restrictions again because there are the waves. So there's a lot that's going on all the time. At work, there might be a lot of changes. And so there's things that you have to constantly work. And so you kind of feel like that giraffe, that baby giraffe, and I'm feeling a little unbalanced. And so just simply recognizing that change is not easy. And we like to think that we're good with change, but we really don't like it as humans. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced it where you go to the hairdresser, and I know not everybody on here is a female, but let me just say it like this, and you go and you want to get a haircut. You're like, yeah, I want to change. I want it to look a different color and I want it different. And then the hairdresser does everything you want. And 2 days later, you're like, I'm not sure about this. Why did I do this? Because we don't always want the change, but we don't always like the change. And so it takes us a while to get used to it. And so understanding that everyone around us is experiencing this, whether they're at the grocery store and they're the checkout person, or it's somebody, even our nurses, our doctors, our electricians, our plumbers, everybody's experiencing this. And so having that kind of compassion and recognizing this for yourself and for others is really going to decrease that stress that you add to yourself. And so what is stress and what does it look like? So you have changes in appetite, whether you're eating too much or too little, as you heard Jody talk about earlier. This is a big one. You're having difficulty concentrating. You're forgetting. There's memory issues. You might have some gastrointestinal issues. Some things might upset your stomach more. You might be increasing your tobacco and alcohol use. And I've heard a lot of people talk about this. There's actually a statistic that we found recently that talks about there's an increase of 40% in alcohol sales. So that's a big jump. So keep in mind that if you're experiencing any of these, to make it as a red flag for yourself, that there's something going on with you, that the stress is a lot more than what you realized. Notice if you're irritable or if you're more sad lately. If you have less energy, you don't feel like doing the things that you normally like doing. You don't feel like going for a walk. And you can go for a walk. I live in an apartment building, and you would think it's a lot more difficult because there's so many more people here. But everybody's been very respectful of the fact that we have to wear a mask, that we have to social distance, and I've been able to go for walks. I've been able to get out and about. The other thing to realize is the muscle tension in your body, because that then influences your ability to sleep. So let's talk about sleep for a second. Sleep is probably the most important thing that you can do for yourself. If you're sleeping too much or too little, that's a big sign that there is a bigger stress issue here. And sleep actually influences not just your ability to be awake in the morning and to be peppy and to have a good mood, but it also influences your ability to retain new information. It influences your ability to remember things. It actually also influences your ability to lose weight or to stay healthy. It's going to, if you're not sleeping enough, you're more likely to gain weight. So those are some of the things that you need to keep in mind for yourself and for your loved ones and for your peers and your coworkers. If you're noticing any of these, then make sure that then you start having the conversations. What can I do next? Where can I go? What help can I get? Okay. And then also recognizing again that we're all experiencing some of these things. Earlier on, there was some chats going on about people. The question that Jody asked is, hey, you know, how many of us have gained weight during this time? And there was definitely somebody who said that they were pleading the fifth, because it's something that we're all recognizing. There's all these emotions that we're all experiencing, all these behaviors that we're having, whether it's difficulty remembering things or sleeping or eating too much or too little. Okay, so who can help? Pediatricians, pediatricians, primary care physicians, psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, social workers, religious leaders, and they're all available virtually right now. So a lot of times we tend to think about going to the doctor and we have to go in person, and there's a hesitation of going back in person to some of these places. But the truth of the matter is that they're all available virtually. If you're working for a larger organization, or even some of the smaller organizations sometimes have worked together to have an employee assistance program, please make sure that that's another way that you can take advantage of getting some help. If you're at a university, if you are enrolled as a student, they have a lot of the universities have counseling that is available to you, so that's something that you can use as well. And so remembering to take care of yourself. A lot of the times that's the biggest piece of advice that I can give you, is make sure to take care of you. Make sure that you are creating a schedule. As I said earlier, we don't like change. Humans don't like change. We like to know what happens next. We like to know that at 10 o'clock, I can take a 5-minute coffee break. After work every day at this time, this is the time we usually have dinner. This is the time that I usually meet somebody at the gym. We like a schedule, so create a schedule. And even if you're not able to go to the gym, you're not able to go see someone or have dinner with other people, you can schedule something at home, so that at this time is the time that I normally went to the gym, so I'm going to go to the gym now. Schedule it out. Schedule the time that you go to bed every night and wake up every morning, so that your body has that consistency, and it helps with maintaining your mood. It helps with making sure that you actually rest at night. Physical activity is really important for your stress and your own mental health. We know that the more active you are, the less tension your body carries, which allows your brain and your mind to shut down and to not overthink things and to not be hypervigilant about things, and it helps with mood. So making sure that you're doing something every day, whether it's a 10-minute walk, a yoga class, there's a lot of things that are available online. So if you're not able to go someplace, you're able to either live online, or you can find it on YouTube. There's so much out there right now. That's one of the big pluses from this pandemic, is that there is a wide range of things that are available for you. Spend some time with nature, whether you're going for a 5-minute walk or not, or a 10-minute walk, or just sitting outside. Going outside is really important. Get some sun. We know that when you're out there with vitamin D, it actually helps improve mood as well. So making sure you're scheduling that into your day is really important. Connecting with your support system. I know it can be challenging right now, but if you have the opportunity to either use a Zoom or to use FaceTime or any of the other platforms that you're able to connect with your loved ones, there's actual research that's come out from this, that in the last 6 months, seeing somebody's face, not just getting on the phone with them, but seeing their face virtually helps improve our mental health. It helps improve our mood. Making sure you add that in. And I don't know if you all remember when you were kids and you put on some music and you were danced and it brought out great memories and you felt good, but adding that to your day, adding laughter in, whether it's a comedy, it's a show, it's there's actually a couple of sites out there that you can request a joke a day that is sent to your email. Things like that tend to lift your mood. And the more of these things that you add, the less your mind focuses on the negative and all the stressors that are currently happening in your life. So adding these is definitely a big plus. Warm showers and bath. I wanted to mention this because what we know about creating a sleep hygiene, going to bed every day at the same time and waking up every day at the same time, also including taking a warm bath right before, warm shower right before you go to bed helps with getting the right kind of rest, because it allows your body to relax. It allows your body to release some of that tension. And then if it's warm and you have a cool setting in your space where you're going to go to sleep, it allows that contrast of the warm shower and the cool temperature actually starts to induce rest and sleep. So that helps with then getting the kind of rest that you do need. And then the last one that I put on here is practicing gratitude. And so there actually is some research that if you take a few minutes every day and just list 3 things that were good that day, 3 things that happened that you're grateful for, that you appreciated, that you saw as something good, something as simple as you were able to go for a walk and it wasn't raining, or you weren't sweating buckets because you are in South Florida and it's really hot outside, or you didn't get bit by mosquitoes, or you were able to see somebody via Zoom or on FaceTime that you haven't seen in a long time. You were able to connect with a loved one. Perhaps you were able to have a few more minutes of night's sleep last night, or maybe you were really mindful about what you ate yesterday and you feel really good about that. And so these are some of the ways that you can list things and start to feel better about yourself and about what is happening. And then that gives you the strength and the motivation to continue and to do more and to have good positive contacts with others. And also it helps with, on a more simple and basic note, it helps with your job improvement, it helps with your job performance, it helps with your work performance, your schooling performance if you're in school. If you're able to take care of yourself and practice these, it starts to help with those, or that's where you're going to see the results of the self-care. Okay. And so I wanted to give you some resources. Baptist recently partnered with the Recovery Village, and we have 3 sites that are now available to you. There's 2 in the Palm Beach area, and then there's 1 in Miami. And more importantly, they are virtual right now. So that's something that you can get. So you can get some counseling, some psychiatric sessions are available as well. And then we have some more of the intensive services, the intensive counseling and group. And we do receive patients on site for some of the inpatient that's available as well. And then I wanted to give you some others. 211, wherever you are in the state of Florida and in the counties, you can call 211 and it starts giving you the kinds of supports that's out there in your neighborhood and in your area. And of course, I listed our Care on Demand app, that urgent care is available. Primary care sites are also being seen through there. Mental health and psychiatry is also available through there. And then some of the other local programs that are partners that we have, Banyan Health and Fort Lauderdale Behavioral Health, all of which have support for mental health. They have a crisis unit, both of them. They have crisis mobile units that can go out to see somebody that is experiencing some extreme depression or anxiety and needed some more support. And then online, we have NAMI, which is the National Association for Mental Illness, as well as SAMHSA, which is also includes substance abuse, and NIM, which is also for mental health. And then I added here the events.baptisthealth.net, which tells you all the events, the virtual events that we have for Baptist that are both exercise, meditations are available, and as I said earlier, mental health topics are also available on there. And I think that's it. I think I have a slide that has some questions, but I'm not sure if we're going to take questions right now or if somebody else has another presentation. Thank you all. I hope this was helpful, and I'll be here for a little bit so I can answer any questions you have.
Thank you so much, Grace, for that lovely presentation. I know that I definitely learned a lot. Next, we have Lizzie Chiappi. Am I saying that right? I hope so.
Yep,
She's
you
a
are.
Miami native. Thank you, Lizzie. Thank you. Excuse me. She's a Miami native who has also led an active lifestyle. This drove her to her career in the health and fitness industry in 2010, while she was completing her MBA through FIU. So Lizzie is certified as an ERYT 500-hour yoga instructor through Yoga Alliance and Pilates instructor through Polestar Pilates in the Pilates Method Alliance. She has also founded NYP Athletics, previously called Yoga Elite, a prescriptive mindfulness yoga and Pilates program for athletes of all ages and all levels. In addition, she co-founded the Casa Vinyasa yoga studio in South Miami alongside Melissa Ikaviria. Lizzie has also recently taken an 85-hour pre-postnatal yoga certification course and is looking forward to expanding her knowledge and experience in the realm of yoga. Lizzie knows firsthand how powerful and impactful the practice of yoga is and has since focused on spreading the practice of yoga through teaching, classes, events, and facilitating teacher trainings. So thank you, Lizzie.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you, Nicole, for inviting me to be a part of this wellness panel. I don't have a presentation because I'll be showing you physically with my own body some things that you can do for yourself. I did also want to thank Grace and Jody. I loved everything you both had to say, and I couldn't agree more with everything you guys had to say. And to piggyback off of some of their stuff before I show you some techniques and how you can help with your stress, I cannot stress enough, just like they did, how important it is to get a handle on your health. And a lot of us just assume that that just means like hitting the gym. And there's so many more components that are involved in your health besides, of course, eating healthy, trying to keep a positive mindset. So I loved how Grace mentioned, you know, taking a moment to have gratitude and like list out things that you're actually grateful for. Getting out in the sun. We're so fortunate to live in South Florida that we have beautiful sun, we have oceans all around us, plenty of plants and trees, and that is so important. In addition to all of that, sleeping well, of course, maintaining physical activity one way or another, and also even the fact that as human beings, why this quarantine and this pandemic has been so challenging is that we're all wired for human connection and even wired for physical touch. So just as a reminder, it may seem silly, but if you're quarantining with people, like, don't forget to hug them. You may be sick of them by now, but don't forget to hug the people that you're quarantining with or the people that you're comfortable being around in a close proximity, because we feed off of that. Like our minds and our bodies feed off of that, and that can also help your immune function way more than you think. And the thing with managing stress and why it's so important, as you know, Jody and Grace had both mentioned, is, you know, when we are operating from our sympathetic nervous system instead of our parasympathetic sympathetic nervous system, is our the cortisol and the stress hormone cortisol gets released into our bloodstream, and that's fine, right? Like we do need some level of cortisol so that we are alert and ready to handle whatever life throws our way. But what's bad about it is when it stays, right? So it's like the cortisol comes in, we're alert, okay, COVID's here, this is what we have to do to protect our family, protect ourselves, our businesses, you know, all of that. And also it's important to know, okay, we've done what we're needed to do, now it's time to move on and not stay in that heightened stress, because it can wreak havoc on your body 100%, and it can invite all these diseases that cause these problems like obesity, anxiety, depression, digestive problems, headaches, sleep issues, heart disease, weight gain, memory, and concentration impairment. So if you've been experiencing any of those things, know that it could definitely be contributing to the factor that we're just not managing our stress well. So that's kind of a part where I can come in as far as like that self-care. Something I'm going to offer to you first before I get into like the yoga part, of course, is breathing. We undervalue the importance of breathing so much. And what's great about it is oxygen is completely free and available to us at any point in time. We just need to know how to utilize it. And so if you've ever noticed when you start to get stressed or anxious and think about the future and everything that's going to come and everything that's happening and when's this going to stop, is you'll start to notice that your breath gets shorter and shorter. And I'm sure you probably even noticed that it's all the way up here in your chest. So what I want you to focus on when it comes to breathing is actually breathing into your belly, and not just breathing like into your belly that you puff up your belly like a balloon, but even thinking of breathing into like your sideways so that you can expand your rib cage out. So you actually give your diaphragm, which is a muscle, and it's actually part of your core muscles too. We just think of our abs as part of our core muscles, but you actually get to like exercise your diaphragm so that it can expand as much as possible. So you get the most out of your oxygen consumption. So if you all don't mind with me, I know you guys don't have your videos on, but just so you can try it for yourself, just first sit up as tall as you can, because posture actually also will contribute to getting the most out of your breath as possible. So sit up as tall as you can and just close your eyes so you can focus on yourself and not kind of any external distractions, and just take a few breaths. Just breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth, and just notice. Just notice if you already feel shortness of breath. Notice if you have a hard time taking breath in. Notice if your breaths on the way out are short, or if you have a hard time letting the breath go. And then also notice if you're tensing up your facial muscles, your neck muscles, your shoulders as you breathe, and see if you can consciously relax them. And then lastly, notice if your breath is residing mainly in your chest. And see if you can start to bring the breath down. Bring it down into your belly, into your sideways, like into your ribs. Almost thinking of your rib cage like an accordion. So every time you take a deep breath in, feel your ribs separate away from each other like an accordion does. And then as you breathe out, pull your belly button in towards your spine and feel your ribs come back together. And if you're having a hard time making that happen on your own, with your eyes still closed and still breathing, bring the palms of your hands to the front of your belly. And the next time you take a deep breath in, press your stomach into your hands. And then as you breathe out, pull your belly button in towards your spine and feel your fingers come closer together. And keep doing that. So now your fingers kind of are like that accordion. Just inhale, breathe in, fill up your belly, feel your fingers separate. And then exhale, pull your fingers in closer to each other. And then softly blink open your eyes. So that's just one technique there that you can do when you start to notice, like, okay, I'm breathing into my chest, my breath is getting shorter. Know that that's just causing you to like freak out even more than you need to. And like, that's a moment where you can literally pause wherever you are. If it means pulling your car off to the side of the road and putting it in park, you can do it then. You can literally stop in your tracks as you're walking and just stand and do this. Or if you're at your desk, just put everything down, come to the edge of your seat, sit up nice and tall, close your eyes and come right into it. And that can be very meditative also. And you may find that you even fall into kind of like a breathing meditation and just focusing on your breath. And as a matter of fact, when I teach people to meditate, that's like the first thing I teach is just focus on your breath, focus on the quality of your breath, and then you can start to focus on whatever you want to. So that's one technique. Another technique, if it's just like one of those crazy hectic days and you know the internet's just not working, or Zoom or whatever outlet you're using has shut down, or whatever is going on, is another technique that's called box breathing. And what box breathing, since it's called a box, it's usually in a count of 4, and it's just to again to slow your breathing down dramatically. So what you do is you breathe in for 4 counts. So you'll have to not take in your breath right away. Like you don't want to just be like that. You want to like slowly bring your breath in for 4 counts. You'll hold your breath for 4 counts. Then you'll release your breath for 4 counts, and then you'll hold the breath out for 4 counts. If 4 counts from the first time you try it feels too much, you can start with a 2 count or a 3 count and then eventually work your way up. So we're going to go ahead and put it into practice here. So once again, come into a good posture, sitting up nice and tall, your shoulders back, and just take normal breaths. Just take normal breaths in through your nose. You can close your eyes again if it helps you concentrate more, and breath out of your mouth. You can also bring your hands to your belly if you needed that, if that helped. Breath in and breath out. One more like that. Inhale. And exhale. And now breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold your breath. 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe out. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold your breath out. 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. Hold it out. 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. Hold it out. 2, 3. Last round. Breathe it in. 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath. 2, 3, 4. Breathe it out. 2, 3, 4. Hold it out. 2, 3, 4. Take a normal breath in and a normal breath out. And softly blink open your eyes. So I know we're not taking questions or having like an interactive conversation around it, but hopefully you notice already that maybe you feel a little bit more relaxed. So know that that's, again, available to you whenever, wherever. You don't have to have any special degree or certifications in order to use your free oxygen at any point in time. The next thing I wanted to go over, and I'll make sure that you guys can see me here, is I know that a lot of you are working at a desk a lot more right now. And you're sitting, even though I'm a yoga instructor, I'm even sitting a lot more than usual, simply because some of my clients are still working with me virtually. So some things that you can do at your seat. First and foremost, what we tend to do is we're looking like down at our keyboard or looking at our screen. First thing that I can encourage you to do is find a way to bring your screen up to eye level. Our head weighs 8 to 10 pounds. And every like degree we look forward, we're adding like an additional 5 pounds on our cervical spine, which is our neck. And our cervical spine, if you ever saw like an actual like bone like picture of it, is really thin because it's meant for us to be able to move our neck all the way around and look in all directions. So it's thin so that we can do that. So just know that while it's thin, it also doesn't have a whole lot of support for like extra undue stress. So just be mindful with all the tablet using, reading on the computer with your phones on how much you look down. And I encourage you to bring things up to eye level to help with your neck. Also being mindful of your posture. You want to, shoulders back, sitting up nice and tall. Be mindful of how much you're rounding your back or hunching down. Something that helps is I always try my best to sit at the edge of my seat so that I can firmly plant my feet on the ground, and that helps me keep like a straight spine. And every now and again, if you need the reminder, if I could suggest, set an alarm on your phone for every hour and a half that says like, get moving, so that you do something. And whether you're like right in the middle of working on a deadline or something like that, something simple that you can do is just take some nice shoulder rolls down and back. And you can do any of this right now, by the way, while you're sitting and watching me, or I can just do it by myself, which is fine. But you can roll your shoulders down and back, and then you don't even need to add any force. You can just drop your right ear to your right shoulder and you'll automatically feel the stretch. You don't even need to use your hand to pull it over any further. You can drop your left ear over to your left shoulder. You'll feel the stretch and release there. I'm sure you'll notice some tightness, and that's okay. That's completely normal. And then since we do spend so much of our time looking down, is just do some exercises, just softly, don't throw your head back, but just look back and look up to the ceiling, stretching the front of your neck.
behind your back, bringing your palms together, interlacing your fingers, and then you stretch your arms, which further peels open your chest, but now you're also peeling open your shoulders. You can look up again, and I got a few cracks out of my spine, so maybe you did too, and that probably feels real nice. That means your body needed this. So I highly suggest doing more of this. Good, and then you can release your hands down by your side. And then something simple that you can do by your desk too is you can, holding onto the edge of your desk, you can do this in your chair, but I like to do it while seated so I can get more access to my hips, is our hips. Like our front of our hips are hip flexors, and then the outsides of our hips get really tight from sitting all day. So it's called a figure 4 stretch. So you would cross your ankle of one leg over the other thigh and then just sit back. So I hope you guys can see me. Nicole, will you give me a thumbs up if you can see me clearly? Perfect, thank you. Okay, good. So it's just like this. So I'm bending my standing leg and I'm feeling the stretch on the hip of the leg that's crossed. This, I promise you, goes a long way. This will target your sciatica. This will target your piriformis. This will target just the whole outside of your hip, and all of that, by the way, contributes to lower back pain. So just holding this for like count to 30 seconds will go a long way for you. And then of course, just make sure you do the same thing to the other side. And then something as simple as standing up and just taking a lap around the office, taking a lap around your house, around your desk, anything like that can go a long way just to get the blood flowing in your body. And just get you so that your body doesn't lock up so much. I hope all of this is helpful. Again, breathe, just stop, pause, and breathe. Even just closing your eyes and taking a deep breath can go a long way. And it's one last thing I want to share with you is also, even if you don't feel like you have anything to smile about, just smile. Smiling automatically changes the psychology of our brain and our entire structure. And it automatically can just take you from like a heightened, like stressed state to like, okay, we got this and it's not so bad. So I hope this was helpful information, and thank you again for having me. And again, my name is Lizzie. Stay healthy.
Thank you for those wonderful presentations. So now I think it is time for questions and answers.
Don't be shy. Does anyone have any questions?
My question, this is Grant. My question is, so we're talking about healthy eating. That's our intake. We're talking about yoga, which is a lot of breathing, stressing, and then our mental awareness. And we're kind of like pulling all this together. And I'm going to tell you, I feel so much better just already. I don't think we realize how much stress we're carrying until we start to relieve some of that. So I don't know if that's a question, but I think that's what it is that do you think people really realize how much stress they're under, at certain points of the day or during the week?
I would say no. And one of the things that I've told some people is even in your calendar, add like on your phone or on your calendar, add like a little check-in for yourself and how you're doing, because it's going to help you understand how much you're carrying it. The physical body is going to tell us a lot more. Everything that Lizzie just did, just, kind of doing those little stretches just to see where you are, to check where you are, can help with understanding how much stress you're carrying and how it's actually affecting your body. And then checking in, are you sleeping enough? Is your mood changing? All those things are actually going to tell you how much your body's holding that stress and what's going on for you. Does that help?
I think it helps a lot. We've got about 28 people on the line. I know we're all carrying a great deal of stress when you think about what we've been through 2020. I encourage all of us to not be shy, talk about the things that are on your mind, take some of these techniques that we're learning today and really, really apply them. But we only got a couple of minutes left, but I encourage anyone to just open up their mic and, just speak what they feel.
Hi there, Grant and all the conferencees. It was an excellent presentation. It's so relevant, I think, to so many of us. I did want to ask, you know, we're all feeling stress, and sometimes people use the word stress, anxiety interchangeably. And I remember some time ago taking an emotional intelligence course, how they really defined it. And it was very helpful in getting through between, you know, sort of understanding what there was a constraint in time and maybe resources, and what was something that was larger. And it seemed that that awareness was really helpful in working through. And I was hoping maybe you could elaborate more on that.
Sure. I think the simplest way to, and for the interest of time, the simplest way to think about it is stress is the thing that we feel on the day-to-day, all those things that we are experiencing in life, the changes in life, that's going to add some stress. And stress can be a good thing, right? We need a little bit of it. It kind of creeps in a little bit if you have something due, if you're going to compete in a race. A little bit of stress is good for your body. Where it switches into anxiety is when it's long term, when it's been here for a while and it starts affecting you, when you start having different kinds of signs and symptoms that are showing up. And so then it turns into this longer component, and that's when we start talking about it as anxiety and as more of a clinical issue, where you need to get a little bit of help so you can manage it better. And so anxiety is what comes from having too much stress in your daily life and too many life changes, or your response to too many life changes, and it becomes difficult for that to manage, and it's a consistent, more chronic issue. Does that help?
Sorry, getting off mute. Yes, it does. And it just seems like all these techniques that you guys are talking about and asking us to be more aware of and to practice will prevent us from moving into a more, I guess, clinical manifestation.
Yeah, yes, and I would say not just on the clinical mental health side, but on the chronic physical side as well, because if, as you can see, it does affect the physical body, and if you don't manage that stress and it turns into that anxiety, long term you can have issues. I know Lizzie talked a little bit about the neck and the shoulders. Well, it also causes internal issues as well. You're putting all that stress on your body and you're not managing the stress, you're not releasing that tension, can actually cause damage to your internal organs. And so that's why we talk about the importance of being aware of what the stress is doing to your body, and this tension in the body and in the muscles tells us that stress is happening, and that's why you engage in that self-care and the different activities to release that stress and manage it better, so that it doesn't long term not just affect our long-term mental health with a mental illness like an anxiety disorder, but also the physical issues that could arise. So people have had lung issues and kidney issues and liver issues and stomach long-term GI issues, all because stress is not being managed properly.
Wonderful, thank you. And thank you, South Florida HIMSS, for such a great, conference and timely.
Right.
If I could add one point, everyone. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Jesus Diaz. I work at a Memorial Healthcare System. It's great to see a lot of colleagues, especially from Memorial here. If I can just share one thing that's kind of impacted me personally in a positive way. And thank you so much to Jody, Grace, and Lizzie for great feedback and great material presented. I think it's super helpful in today's climate. But I'll share personally. I had weight loss surgery in October of 2018, right? So going back to the first points where obesity is a chronic condition. I definitely had several things going against me. I had many trials of failed diets. You keep it off for a little bit, but then you gain that and a little bit more. So I went through those highs and lows. I ultimately made a decision to go through weight loss surgery, and coming up on 2 years, it's been very successful for me, and I'm very fortunate. But I can tell you that was merely a vehicle to get me where I'm at today. Everything being discussed here today, something that really helped me prepare myself for that transition in life. It was a book called Power of Habit, right? So habit is something that is so powerful. Whether it's good habits, bad habits, regardless, it's a habit. And that book taught me to be able to reflect personally and have mindful reflection, take self-inventory of things that I'm doing on a daily basis, because everything requires, daily decision points to really progress, and whether it's replace a bad habit with a less bad habit, or replace a good habit with a better habit, or whatever the case may be. So I just wanted to share that with folks that, that's a great book, at least for me, that allowed me to take self-inventory to see what I'm doing currently in my life, what I could be doing better. And again, it's daily decisions. It's definitely a marathon. It's not a race. And at least for me, it's daily decision points that are keeping me on track. And these points discussed today are definitely going to be added to my tool bag. So thank you so much for everyone.
Thank you, Jesus.
I'd like to say thank you, Jesus. Oh, sorry.
No,
Thank
go
you,
ahead.
Jesus, for sharing. So what we do know is that we used to think of weight loss surgery as being restrictive. So we used to think that it worked by restricting calories and restricting consumption. But now we do know that weight loss surgery works from changing our hormones. So it decreases the amount of ghrelin, which is our hunger hormone that we have in our body. But what does happen sometimes to many people who do have weight loss surgery is they start to regain weight back. So if this does happen to you, Jesus, it is normal. And we do know that, the ghrelin does come back, and the addition of anti-obesity medication after weight loss surgery, if people are starting to regain weight back, is a normal part of course of treatment. So anybody who has had weight loss surgery or is planning to do it and they do start to gain weight back, definitely asking your physician for anti-obesity medication, because it's streamlined current thinking and treatment if you do for combating that additional weight gain after weight loss surgery. And people were being blamed for their lifestyle choices being the reason for this.
Sure, thank you for that hope. Thankfully, I've been super successful when I've kept my weight off, and I plan on keeping it off. One habit that I am currently working on changing is my cafecito and croqueta in the morning. I'm trying to replace that with a little bit healthier food option, but we got to live at the same time. But no, I'm happy to report things are going well. And again, that book, Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, D-U-H-I-G-G, was definitely something that aided me and contributed to my success. So I thank you for that feedback.
Congratulations, Jesus.
All right. Well,
I guess we can wrap up.
Yeah, we're a little over time, but I wanted to personally thank our speakers today, Lizzie, Grace, and Jody. I personally learned a lot, and I had some great reminders, which I think we forget when we're going through so much during these unprecedented times. But thank you for everyone that has attended today. And as Kendall mentioned, please join us again on September 24th at 11:30 for a great webinar with regards to the role of social determinants of health. Thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and stay safe and well. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.